Okay, so today we are going to make a practice sketch of a paper airplane. I know there are many ways to make a paper airplane. We're going to make one just kind of like the regular old generic way. You can use a ruler for this if you want, or like the straight edge of a book or something if you want, because there are a decent number of straight lines. If you're okay with doing straight lines, you don't really need to do it. I don't think it's really necessary, because even if they're kind of a little wrinkly or curved, it just sort of looks like the curves of paper, okay? But what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with a straight line, and this should be like roughly in the middle of your paper. I'm just gonna make this going horizontal this way, about this far apart, about that long. This line is going to be the center of your airplane here, so whatever direction you make it, like if you had it going vertical or to the side, it just changes the direction of your airplane. But I'm just going to keep mine going horizontal across like that. And then once I get this, I'm going to draw the front of my airplane, which I'm just going to make a little, basically like I'm making an arrow. So I'm just going to make a little line. So you got a big arrow going on right over here. And then once you get your arrow drawn in like so, we are then going to make two more diagonal lines extending off from these 2 points that should not be the same angle that you have this one. So if you think this one is kind of going, if you imagine if this one just kind of extended out like that, this is what we're going to do is we're going to start here and we're going to go in, down just a little bit, so it's not the exact same angle. So I'm just going to make this one go like that. And then I want to try to match it on the other side with this one over here. Again, it does not need to be perfect, because paper airplanes are never perfect. So if you end up with more space over on one side and less on the other, that doesn't mean that your drawing is going to look worse. I know some people are really particular about making everything like totally even and all that stuff, which is cool. And if you want to do that, go for it. But you can still, you know, you can just imagine this is a paper airplane made by somebody who did not fold their paper all that well, if you end up with like a ton of extra space, you know, but aim for quality. Okay, so once we have something kind of like this. Oh, actually, I missed a step. Okay, so it's okay, we did this, we'll come back, we'll be fine. What we're gonna do is we are gonna go, again, from these same 2 points that we just drew, these lines extending out, we wanna, before we did this, it's probably a little bit easier, but it doesn't really matter. We're gonna make 2 horizontal lines. So I'm just gonna, again, I'm gonna start from here, and I'm just gonna make sure that my line is parallel to this center one that I made here. So I'm just gonna go straight back like so, from here, straight back like, nope, straight back, yeah, about there. So straight back like that. And again, I can come in here and erase all my little mistakey lines over here. All right, so this is the front part of our airplane. We had the arrow. If you block out these 2 sections here, it's sort of like a sword. If you just look at those parts, and then we kind of have our lines coming out over here. So this is the kind of the front part of the airplane. The back part of the airplane is like maybe like a little trickier. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that these outside lines here, this one here, and then this one here, are a little longer than the other ones, like these over in here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to draw, if you had your paper like this, we're going to essentially be drawing an M, sort of like that kind of a shape, an M, sort of a squashed M here. On this section over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn my paper. It might be a little bit easier to see it this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from this end here, and I'm going to angle it up a little bit, like so, until I run into this line here. And then I'm going to angle it down just a little bit like so, and I'm going to make it run into this line here. So if you didn't make that one long enough, we're just going to bring that down like so. So it goes up and then down until it hits the center. And then it does the exact same thing. It goes up until it hits this line right here. And then it goes down and it hits over in this end over here. So you should have something that looks sort of like this. Once you have this, the last little part of an airplane is there are 2 little folds in the paper, and they come from these corners here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start from these corners, and we're going to go in at an angle until it runs into this line here. We're just going to kind of go like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing from here. And when I do, whatever I do for this one, try to make this line also meet at about the same space over here. So if you think like this one ends about here, if I just kind of walk my pencil down to here, I want to make a line going from that point to this corner down here. So just something kind of like that. And then once I have that done, I'm going to then make 2 more diagonal lines. Remember how when we did this, I had you guys make this angle slightly different than this one here, like not exactly the same? You want the same kind of a thing, just to keep it like, it'll look more 3-dimensional if it's not exactly the same angle. So on this one, I'm just gonna go, whatever that angle that I did here, instead of going like straight out like that, I'm gonna kind of go down just a smidge sharper. So I'm gonna go like that. And then again, wherever this one meets here, I wanna connect that to here. So I'm gonna go do like that. And then I'm done. So at this point, I have all of the lines of my airplane. I'm not done with my drawing yet, but I have all like the general lines of my paper airplane going on. So again, we want to make this thing look nice and 3-dimensional. So let's imagine that our light is coming from this side over here. So we're gonna have light over here, but we're also then gonna have shadow over here, and then we're gonna have light here, and then we're gonna have shadow over here, because our thing is kind of like a zigzag. So what we're gonna do is we're going to, for right now, we're just gonna leave this whole section right here, this triangular section right here, we're just gonna leave that alone. And we're gonna just look at this whole section over here, and we're just going to shade that section in. You don't go all the way to black. Again, you want this to be like maybe the 3rd step of your value scale. So we're just gonna go shady, 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 shady. Keep it nice and even. This will look so much better and more 3-dimensional if you keep your shading nice and even. All the way across over here. All the way across over here. Nice and even. Back and forth. Oh, I should have showed you something. Actually, I'll show you something right now. So, to make your shading really nice and even, especially when you have like a straight edge like this. Oops, that's me dropping my ruler. If you put a piece of paper on that edge here like so, and then you go over here, you don't even have to worry about being neat on that side over here. You can just be like all the way across, and you end up with a nice, beautiful straight edge, and then you can just flip it around over here, and then do the same thing, and just kind of like get that last little bit over there. And then you can just keep things nice and even going that way. Because evenness in your shading is key to making these things look 3-dimensional. So we've done that. And then we're gonna do the same thing. So we have light over here, and then shadow here, and then again, we're gonna have light here, and we're gonna have shadow on this side over here. So we're gonna do the exact same thing. This whole triangular section over here is gonna have shadow. So we're gonna go shadow, 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 all the way across. Again, nice and even with your shading. All the way across, like so. And again, we're not going all the way to black here. This is like the 3rd step of your value scale. Excuse me. Okay, so now that we have kind of the general blocking in of our shadow, light and shadow in here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a little bit of extra shading in around these lines right here, because these are lines where the paper is overlapping other parts of the paper. So to make it really look like it's overlapping that paper, we want to go for about the 4th step of our value scale. So I'm going to start right in this section here. I'm going to go right on this part right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go about 1 step darker in my value scale. And I'm just going to go right on this side, and I'm going to make it be more of a shadow. And then I'm just going to blend that in and let it kind of fade into the shadow of my, that I've already drawn here. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this one over here, but I'm gonna make it about this same level of darkness, so about the 4th step of my value scale, like a nice kind of like edge over here like that going across, but I'm going to fade it into the white of the paper pretty quickly. So it's just gonna be kind of like that, and then just let it kind of fade in. And then I'm gonna do the same thing over here, again about the 4th step of my value scale, and let it fade into the white of the paper. And then the same thing now on this side here. And again, let that just kind of fade in. to the paper. And now it starts to look a little bit more three-dimensional on here. When we did our sphere, if you remember when we did that, which I have right here, maybe I don't. When we did our sphere, we had the light and shadow hitting our airplane, and then we had the shadow that was coming off of our airplane. So it looked like this. So the light here, we had the shadows on the sphere, and then we had the shadow, the cast shadow coming off of that sphere. So we're going to do a similar thing now on here, where we're going to make a little bit of a cast shadow. We're not going to go super, super dark on this, but we're going to make a little bit of one over here. So what we're going to do, since the light's hitting from over here, our cast shadow is going to be more on this side over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start over here at the nose, and I'm going to go and I'm going to make it darkening just a little bit. Right on this edge, right on that white edge right over here. So I'm going to darken it in, and I'm going to let it fade into the paper a little bit. Just let it fade right into the white of the paper. I'm even going to do a little bit on this front part right here, because the noses of airplanes just kind of like come off the ground a touch. So it's going to be kind of like that. And then I'm going to go on this side here, and I'm not going to go the entire way across. I'm going to go like, back maybe like 3/4 of the way, I think. So again, this is going to be the 5th step of our value scale. We're going to make a nice dark edge right along the edge of our airplane here, and then we're going to quickly let that fade into the white of the paper. So shadow, 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 and then let it fade in to the white of the paper. And again, if you need to use your fingers on there to let it kind of blend in here, go for it. So nice and dark. Let that kind of fade into the white of the paper so it looks like it's sitting right on there. And then once I get back about, back to around here, I usually just kind of let that shadow just kind of like fade out a little bit. Shadows are the key to making things look nice and three-dimensional. So we want to make sure we don't forget our shadows. Very, very important. And then once you get things kind of like, for the most part, kind of blocked in on here, you can go back in, you can kind of firm up some of your lines on here a little bit. One thing I usually like to do is I like to take my eraser and just kind of like light in the lines where just the light is hitting it. So I'll make this one edge over here just a touch lighter. And then I can leave that one over here a little darker. I can even kind of like blend my shadows in a little bit more on here. Something that sometimes you'll see if you're looking at an airplane, you'll see that this bottom edge of our paper here where it's folded in will sometimes be a little darker than up here. So you can kind of be like a little darker down in here, and then just let it, and then just again kind of like blend it into that shadow up above. We can do the same thing over here. Be a little darker in here, and then just blend it into that. Make it kind of blend in and get a little bit lighter as it goes towards the top. Like so. A little dark. Okay. And then once you get to this point, you have got a pretty good, pretty decent paper airplane going on. So again, we have light coming in from here, we have light, we have shadow, light, shadow, we have some blends in, fading in of our shadows here and there, fading in of our shadows over here on this side. All right, thank you very much.